taking us live. Top of the hour, everybody. Welcome. John just came in after I made a mess up of the recording, thankfully, so he didn't see all of that. Couldn't find the record button. That's always a slight hold back on any recordings. How's everybody? Good to see you all here.
I have an announcement.
Right. Go for it.
Hey, good to see you, Adrian, and everyone. So we were looking at the possibility of having our first youth entrepreneurship event today. It's not going to be able to happen today. In its stead, we are going to have a special event. I'm putting it on the calendar right now. Evelyn, you know, I was talking about Clubhouse, this platform, the spoken word platform, kind of like the unrecorded podcast deal. We're getting together on Clubhouse, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Everyone's welcome. If you don't have the Clubhouse app, then you're not going to be able to participate. So follow me, follow Shannon, especially me, and on Clubhouse, and you'll get to participate. This will be a great training for you to start using that platform. So that's my intent with it, and I'm going to be learning as well. Back to you, Adrian.
6 p.m. Is that 6 p.m. Eastern, John? Did
that's
you say?
Correct. 6 p.m.
6
Eastern,
p.m.
U.S. Daylight Time. That's correct.
And that's every Tuesday?
Today.
Just
Special
today.
Event. Today.
Okay.
And then what comes of that could be, I don't know. There's people on Clubhouse like 12 hours a day, which I don't know how that works, but yeah, we're gonna figure out Clubhouse today. So.
Well, once you're on it, John will be on it 12 hours a day, I'm sure. So
there you go. That's
it. We'll wait to see you in action. We're live. I'm gonna mute everybody, if I may. So we are all ready to roll, and welcome everybody. This is the general session, as you know, for the John Lavenia Success Mastermind. 20th of April already, believe it or not. We've got a crowd of the usual folk here. It's lovely to see everybody as always. I see Mandy's come in, Lindsay, Coral, Stefan, been talking to Gail as well, Mark, Ivier, Cyril was there, Glenn's there, there's Carl, Lynn, Suzanne, and they're still dialing as we speak. I can't keep up with it. Anyway, housekeeping before I forget, Ivier is doing one of her wonderful talks today, 5 p.m. Eastern Time US, Corporate Curio. So don't miss that. If you can dial in, it will be great to be there. We always have such a good group discussion. It raises a lot of issues about how we conduct ourselves, how we run businesses, how we should perceive running a business and management. Very, very interesting and insightful stuff. So I really recommend that. Anyway, today I wanted to talk about unconsciousness and about not being unconscious. And this ties in, as it happens, because I had already honestly, John, decided to speak about this before the book club got rolling on Weldon Long and the Power of Consistency, which we spoke about last night, and we spoke a lot about consciousness with John. So if you look at the member site in the recording section, you'll find the sessions there, and it carries on next week. So really recommend that book. I was just talking to Ivier, and we both said probably of the 5 on the original list that John gave us, that really resonated with us, that book. Weldon Long, The Power of Consistency. Now, we did also, by the way, talk about Fiji, breadfruit, and the Mutiny on the Bounty, but that is a longer story, which we may get onto in due course. Couldn't resist, really, but there you go. So what is being unconscious? Well, I believe that being unconscious or acting in an unconscious fashion probably cost me 20 years of progress. Yeah, 20 years. This topic is that serious and potentially damaging. And that's why we have to really, really focus on it. I mean, have you ever noticed that you're just not connected as you go about the daily business, your tasks in your day? And if you look back at one of your typical days at the moment or in the recent past that you can remember clearly, do you think you've perhaps been on autopilot, conducting your tasks on autopilot? Are you really feeling that you're engaged and conscious as you go about doing things? Or is there a suspicion you're just going through the motions, you're acting unconsciously? And we'll get on to more examples of this in a minute. But this can be a sign, if you are feeling that or doing that you're not really truly aligned with your ultimate goals, or they're not clear, or that you're just not aware of them properly as you should be in terms of what they actually mean in real terms of action, and you're not working towards them, therefore. Maybe you're just getting overwhelmed with lists. So you know the goals are there, but you're getting overwhelmed with lists, and you're just constantly plowing on and on and on through tasks, plowing on until, as Shakespeare put it, the the last syllable of recorded time. I absolutely love that phrase because it just about sums it up. It can feel sometimes as if we're plowing through a to-do list till the last syllable of recorded time. But why? You know, we can tell that we're being unconscious when we reach the end of the week, we reach the end of the month. We look at the goals and we ask ourselves really, well, hang on, what did I do this week or month? What did I really achieve? Did I do a single thing towards my really big and my really important goals? I can have whole weeks where that just doesn't happen. And I get so frustrated and say, why did I let that happen this week? But I got swept off on a series of tasks. Did I serve myself well? Or did I just unquestioningly complete a series of many, 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 many tasks? Quite often the answer is yes. So we might find ourselves also wondering just where did the time go? Or trying to remember even the days that did go past and what happened in them. You can't remember what you did on the Monday by the time you reach the Friday. You just had an endless flow of tasks, piled one on top of the other. And then during the day, we might find ourselves sitting there looking at the clock thinking, how did we reach 4 p.m.? What happened? Where did it go? Did we ever just feel that we've spent too much time rushing around? We're just rushing around. These are all signs often of being carried relentlessly downstream through the day and every day on someone else's river, as I call it, someone else's river. If we allow ourselves to remain in an unconscious state, we will keep rolling, 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 as the song goes, down someone else's river. Paddle wheels churning furiously as we go, full steam ahead, fast churning paddle wheels, speed and unconscious action feels great at the time. Action feels great at the time until we reach the destination and it's the wrong destination. Then what do? Well, amazingly, we often set straight back out on that river, someone else's river. We set the paddle wheels going furiously again. We get the steam up and we do exactly the same thing. We head off unconsciously again in the wrong direction on the wrong river. But is all of this inevitable? Need it happen? Are we doomed to be unconscious misadventurers, as I'll call us? Well, we know a lot of things. And what we do know is that while we have to-do lists, goals and ideas, animals don't. We're aware of the impact we produce around us through our actions on a much higher plane than any other animal on the planet is. We're also very aware of our surroundings, if we want to be, even outside our immediate environment. We're aware of our existence. We can examine things, we can fathom out things, we can fathom out the deeper workings of this planet and the whole cosmos, if we really set our minds to it. And yet, even though we can do that and we possess all these incredible powers, more so than any other animal, we place ourselves at a screen, we sit behind a desk, we sit behind a table every day, often without question, and just with no awareness of our greater purpose in why we're doing it, why we're sitting there. And we can stay in that state for a long time. But the great news is we do have a choice, actually. That is a choice, and we can choose to change this. And this is where all the great books, particularly that John is putting to us at the moment, are designed to help. They're designed to get us to think, to reprogram ourselves and to rethink what we're doing. Sometimes we just do not realize until someone says, hey, here's the mirror. Look at how you're spending your day. Perhaps we can hold the mirror up to ourselves as well and say, hey, look in that mirror. What's it telling you? You know, we can attack unconsciousness and we can redirect the subconscious, which again is what a lot of these books are about, the subconscious and what comes out of it. And if we can redirect the subconscious and reprogram it, we can achieve a deeper consciousness throughout every single day that we're operating. We can act and we can work subconsciously rather than unconsciously. The subconscious is the driver. And at some point, though, they know in the science, and they don't fully understand this yet, there is a crossing point between the unconscious and the conscious mind. Things have to get over that barrier and get into the conscious, and we have to create action. And John may talk about this later. Our programmed subconscious thoughts and our mental state determine what we will do or not do. And we can affect that programming by how we tackle our habits and our behaviors. But we have to work at the level of the subconscious first. We've got to fix the subconscious if we want to avoid being unconscious in a regularly unconscious state while we're operating and trying to pursue these wonderful new ideas we all have. If we don't do this, we risk being what some people call asleep at the wheel. Another lovely phrase, asleep at the wheel. You've got the wheel in your hands, but you're asleep. You don't know where the vehicle's going. And if any of you have ever fallen asleep at the wheel of a car, you know how that feels. You will know that you can very quickly career off the road you intended to be on and you wanted to be on, and you can go into a different lane or entirely off the road. So put simply, you just can't drive in a straight line to the destination you've chosen in that lane that you've chosen to be in at that point if you're asleep. And being in an unconscious state has that impact on us. That is what it does to us. And you can see the effects of it if you start to look carefully today at the things you're doing at the moment, the projects you're working on. Being in an unconscious state affects everything that we do. It affects also our interactions with other people and how effective they are, the messages we even send to people and how effective they are and how meaningful they are, even the level of kindness and understanding we show somebody. The way, importantly, for all the entrepreneurs on the call today, that we treat our customers and our suppliers, that can be affected quite detrimentally, or just not be very effective and waste all of the great effort and idea that you created to get to the point of contacting that person. So we just need to raise our consciousness sometimes and to stop and to think, but without needing to stop and think. Now that might sound like a contradiction. You've got to stop and think without needing to stop and think, because we've programmed our subconscious with the right thoughts that have already become habits. They're already there. So we don't need to stop and think, because the thinking's been done for us automatically as soon as we approach the task. We know what we're going to do. We will no longer be unconscious, but we're going to be wonderfully alert and conscious of what we are and what we want out of the task too, and out of the person we're dealing with. We're going to see with the so-called inner eye, but without needing to look. Everything will unfold according to our pre-planned intentions, the ones that we set for ourselves at the beginning of the whole exercise. And we're really going to find that we'll be present in every moment. So again, look, if you haven't already seen the sessions, look at the Weldon Long book club session with John on the power of consistency. A lot of this is touched on again, as some of the other authors we've already looked at have done. But I think it's particularly concise and very effectively put. So have a look at it. It's all about raising consciousness. You know, we know, some of us know we've got a problem with it, and that we can drift through a day. So what do we do about this? Well, there are so many ways of raising our consciousness, which in turn leads us to raising our game, just like an athlete would have to do. And just to take a few examples, I mentioned again yesterday one of my favorite cases, which is John Naber, spelt Naber. He was an American Olympic gold medalist in the swimming discipline. He programmed his subconscious. He decided he was going to get the gold medal. He was a high school swimmer when he started. He just took the world record time. He simply measured out the difference between his time and the world record, divided it by the 4 years he had to get ready. And then he literally broke it down into how many thousandths of a second he needed to shave off his training time in every single training session in that 4 years. And that's what we can do when we're doing a business session or a writing session or a planning session. We can work out what we need to get out of each of our sessions that we've time blocked out for ourselves in order to get to our goal by the deadline that we've set for ourselves, by the dream date we've set for ourselves. Another guy, I watched the Ultra Trail Mont Blanc race around the Mont Blanc in France, Switzerland, and Italy. It's 106 miles long. They run over ridges over 8,000 feet high. And in all, they run over about 32,800 feet in altitude in climbs over this race. And I watched a 58-year-old man win it. And he just kept going, relentlessly driven by an inner programmed subconscious clock that he'd set in training. Everyone sped off. They all blasted out. He wasn't at the front, but he knew he didn't need to be. He worked out an average speed. I think it was something like 8 kilometers an hour, up, down, on the flat, on average. He just kept going. At the food stations, he grabbed the stuff, put them in bags around his waist. He kept going. He knew exactly what he had to do by way of average performance in each session in that race to get through the winning tape. And every sinew and every function had been programmed in practice subconsciously to achieve that average speed. He felt it, he just knew what to do, and he perfectly timed it. And he had to do it for 24 hours. It took 24 hours to run that race. That's a lot. That's 106 miles. That's a long way. So he had to keep this going for 24 hours to win, but he did. So you can be you can be on autopilot. There's no problem with that, providing the subconscious and the practice that's gone into forming it and forming the habits that go with it are sorted out in advance. And you're ready. So you're not wasting your sessions and wasting your months. Another example is one of the greatest English novelists we've had, Anthony Trollope. He decided he needed to write. He dedicated his whole being to writing. He rose at 5 a.m. every day. And then very precisely, he decided and programmed himself to write for 3 hours before breakfasting and then heading off to work at the post office, where, by the way, he stayed for 33 years. He was a dedicated man. That's not all, though. That is not all. He had such a burning desire to write that he practiced and decided to program himself to write 250 words every 15 minutes for that 3 hours, which equals 3,000 words. Every single day before work, 3,000 words every day. And by following that system, he produced 47 novels and 16 other books. And by the way, if he finished a novel within the 3-hour period, he started the next one. He didn't say, hey, great, I've done it. He started again. Now that is some planning, dedication, and programming, I can tell you, but it can be done. And perhaps we used to think those three people, those three examples would be examples of fanatics. But all of us now, as enlightened members of this group, know that that is actually evidence of people pursuing their dreams and their big goals. That's what we're seeing when we see those kind of people. They've worked it out and they've programmed their subconscious, they've formed the habits, and they consistently apply them every day until they get to the goal. And there's no way they're not going to get there. No way. So with a deeply programmed subconscious intent, leading to consciousness and decisive action in every moment, in every day, that's what we're aiming for. If we can do that, it's that simple. You're going to get everything in your big goal, even your big stretch goal. You're going to get it all. You just have to fix on it, work back, work out what is needed, exactly what is needed to get there, get those habits down clearly on paper, work on them, practice them, and form them, and then apply them. That is really it. And we can do this, all of us on this call and in the group, we can do this whenever we choose. We can flick the switch and start those kind of behaviors whenever we choose. On the other hand, I could just sit here and regret at all the knowledge that's passed me by, the time that's run through my hands in streams of water. But we can't hold water. We know we can't hold water. We hold it momentarily in our cupped hands and our fingers, but the decision to drink has to be made there and then before it runs away. So we can do it, but it does take a decisive effort to break habits and make new ones. So we can redirect our efforts and we can become more effective just by clarifying the big goal in the first place and then developing consistent, strong habits, which will then be directed out of our subconscious. So we can then do what the swimmer did, the runner did, and the writer did. And it's just about not being unconscious. If you establish good routines and habits, you're not unconscious anymore. You might be on autopilot, but not unconscious, because you're doing practice things in a practice and effective way. For example, all of the e-commerce entrepreneurs in this group can assess and realize the importance of their customers to achieving their objectives. We can all develop awareness and consciousness towards those customers, towards the suppliers, and that can manifest itself in all the actions we take towards them. And as John tells us, it can manifest itself in who is turning up. How are we turning up? How are we manifesting ourselves when we deal with these people? Who are we in that moment when we're dealing with that supplier and that customer? Is that going to create a successful result for a successful business and a big dream goal? Put yourself in the customer and client's or the supplier's shoes. Decide what you're going to do, what you're going to achieve with each customer interaction you have, for example, every single one of them. This is what I'm going to ensure I get out of these interactions, every single one of them. Every single message you send with intent, with this plan in mind and with these habits formed, can have an effective result, but decide what it is you want out of that message. It's that detailed and it's that precise. You can show yourself in everything you do, every manifestation of your output. I also mentioned the busy fool syndrome last week, And I wanted to mention that again, because we really all need to avoid being busy fools. I know, because I'm certainly one of them. We've got to raise our consciousness and awareness of tasks, their importance, their relative importance, and what's actually involved in them. Let's imagine ourselves in an imaginary shop with shelves stacked full of tasks. You'll pick the item up you're considering, you'll have a look at it, examine it closely, determine its worth and value, decide on the base of your list whether it's the item you want, and whether it's the item you want above all the other items and tasks on the shelf. Every day we go through that process. Every day we're in that shop full of tasks, a virtual store of tasks. And we're confronted with a whole range of shelves with a whole range of our tasks neatly laid out for us on them. But to make matters worse, there are also shelves next to the checkout with the more tempting goods, right in our sight line, where we see the special offers that they're pushing, the easy, low-hanging tasks, the tempting tasks, not the difficult ones we'd rather not go to the difficult shelf for. So we can leave that shop, if we're not careful, with a whole stack of tasks in our basket. But then when we get home, they just don't fulfill our needs. We bought the wrong things. We didn't properly, consciously consider and prioritize what we were buying from those shelves. And we were tempted by the easy tasks quite often on the easy shelf, and not the difficult and important ones that we'd rather have left in the shop. So let's go back into the store, but not unconsciously this time. Let's go back in consciously and enter the store with awareness that we're spending time tokens, that we only have so many of them to spend that day, and then we have to spend them consciously and wisely. We need to buy the important and urgent tasks first. They're not the popular ones, but they're the important ones. And we've got to steer well clear of that low-hanging fruit shelf, the easy fool you task shelf. For this to work, though, we've got to have a list of important and urgent tasks and know what they are. We've got to generate the list. We need to cross, in order to do that, the unconscious conscious boundary. So we're conscious of why it's important and what we're doing on our list. We've got to determine and translate from that which tasks fit the grand design, the big goal, the big dream, and which tasks should end up on the list for today. And then we've got to repeat that process every day. We've got to learn to do it really, really well. If we practice one thing, perhaps this is it. Be experts at prioritizing and getting the list straight and then acting on it. But we've also got to deploy the unique human quality whereby we can assess the results of the task we perform from experience and how they impacted us and how they get us to our goal and whether they took us forward or not and whether they align with our why, with our meaning, with our dream. We have to keep looking at that as well. And if we don't develop this level of consciousness about what we're doing every single day, then we risk ending as busy fools, rushing around working, doing long hours, repeating our old current cycles until we decide to raise our awareness and stop doing that, until we actually couple up our consciousness again to the train and let it pull us out of the station to our dream destination. I'm probably just going to post a link on a Busy Fools article at this point. Let me just see if I can glue this in easily. I'll put it in at the end, I think. I'm just going to find it for you. But the message is really, and message to me particularly, don't be a busy fool. Slow down and think. Practice and form the habits directed at the goals we've chosen. Work smart, not just hard. Those are pretty key things, I think, to get our hands around. So I really needed to hear your thoughts. I wanted to open up the floor. I would love to hear your experiences of all this, being busy fools, acting unconsciously, how you got out of acting unconsciously, formed habits, what works for you. So please, anyone that it's great if you'll share. I think it helps people. We don't even know who we're helping sometimes. People go through struggles at different times on this journey. Anything we can share is really valuable. Stefan has his hand up. Great to hear you, Stefan.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you really well.
All right, good. Hey everybody. This really hits home because this is like listening to my daily schedule. No matter what schedule I set for myself, I quite often end up running around grabbing last minute items that should have been prepared or whatever the case may be, or I'll find things that are not really important, but they're right there in my face, and I'll be like, oh, I gotta do that. And then I'll start doing it and then move on to something else. Like I'm scattered. I've always been that way. And it's you're right. You waste a massive amount of time. I'm still working on it. My mom just bought me a planner, which is actually really pretty cool. The stuff that they have like a lot of gold charts and everything in it. And problem is just remembering to use it though. So, anyways, that's all I got to say.
Stefan, that's great, but I mean, we all go through this. We're all struggling with this, and it's about trying to find, as those three people did, the three examples I gave, the routine and system that works for us personally. We're all different, but that if we regularly, consistently do it, follow it, will get us there. And I think we can really now, because of all the things we've gone through in this group over months now, we can really see these things if we want to. We can look at our effectiveness and say, we're just not cutting it. We're not getting the results every week. So what are we going to do? And we can do something about it. We can just form a brand new habit. Some people, when they first got into the group, formed a brand new miracle morning style habit of getting up earlier, setting a very strict morning routine. That's all part of it. The other part of it is the work routine, the workspace, and how you attack tasks and how you time block to do them. And getting that lovely routine that you can just switch into autopilot because it's well practiced. You're running your 8K per hour. You're going to get there. You're going to win the day. Definitely. So thanks, Stefan. That's helpful.
There was one other thing that you mentioned about kind of like finding out your goal from it being a sign of not knowing what you want. And I think that is very much the case because up until recently, like, I don't know what just switched, so I'm happy it did switch, but I didn't really know what I was gonna do in terms of like moving forward. And I don't want to jinx myself by saying it out loud yet, but I've got some ideas coming up that I think may actually have hopefully make some changes. So that's it.
Stefan, that's great. Now, I mean, I think a lot of us have grappled with this. We go out, there are a few projects coming, then people contact you with a few more interesting products. We're trying to build one really strong stone tower, and then before we know it, we're trying to help people build 5 at the same time. We're running back between 5 stone towers. We all know what's going to happen. Maybe one of them will eventually be built. But the danger is you've got 4 uncompleted towers and a pretty crummy tower that you haven't really worked on very well. So I'm glad you found your real idea purpose there, because I think it will just transform your day. We all know that when we're really engaged in something, or we have to be, we get it done. We get it done.
It's still in planning phases, but I think it could have the potential to be something kind of cool.
Well, that's fantastic, Stefan. That's great. Great. Thank you very much. Julia has her hand up.
I appreciate the reminder of slow and steady. You know, the guy who was doing the run consistently. And of course, that's what we've been talking about in the book study as well. As I was on a session with Neil this morning about my PPC, and it's very frustrating, you know, when you don't see much happening. And he also reminded me that slow and steady, you know, that it takes a long while for this kind of thing to kick in and to work. So I appreciate that reminder. And then as far as what I do to make sure that I've got my tasks and I prioritize my tasks, is I keep a running list I've got a journal here, you know, kind of a work journal. And I make a little box and then I X it out when it's done, or if it's half done, I'm half an X or whatever, or I could date it, whatever. But that helps me because it's sort of always right there. And then as I flip a few pages and it's a couple of days later, I write down the list of what's left to be done and just keep adding to it. And it also helps me sleep at night, because before I go to bed, I try to make sure that my list is as up to date as it can be, so that I'm not trying to carry things in my brain, because that does not make for a restful sleep for me anyway. So it's nothing new. It's just what I use.
Julia, that's great. I mean, I think one of the things that's important is we make sure that on that list, there are things that get us towards our big goal. The danger is, certainly I find this a lot, you can end up with a list that actually doesn't have anything on it towards your big goal. it's a list of important tasks, but maybe not the urgent important tasks that, as I think Steve Covey put it, that get us towards the actual big goal. So we've got to keep examining those lists and working out why we have the things on it we have on it, saying, well, what time have I allowed on this list today, priority time for the big dream? Where is it? Where is it? Is it there? Otherwise, we know we're going to finish the month or the whole period with no progress towards our dream. So
Right.
that's certainly what dogs me a lot.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to get better at looking at lists.
My big ones are on there for sure. They're pretty much at the top of the list. And
Brilliant.
I try to attack them as well. Thank
That's
you.
fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, you talked about gratification as well. Gratification can pull us, but it's the subconscious that pushes us. And unfortunately, the gratification doesn't cut in till nearer the completion of the goal. So we still need the subconscious to drive us forward through the whole process until we start feeling the task completion gratification. Gratification on its own doesn't work because, as you say, it isn't instant. We're going to be running 106 miles. We're not going to get the gratification until right at the end. So we need something to push us for the 105 miles until we get to that last mile. And that's where the subconscious cuts in, and habit, for sure. Thanks, Julia. That was very interesting. Thank you. Nicola.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Thank you for that. Really good reminder. And similar to Julia, just it's organization, I think, of your goals and your tasks. And I've spoken about this before, but the law of attraction planner, which I've got Shannon, John's wife, to thank for, has really changed, probably since the back end of last year, really changed how I approach those. There's a couple of sections in that planner which have just really worked for me. And that is setting clear goals for the month, writing them down. It's never any more than 3. So sometimes just 2. And then like hyper focusing in on those goals. So whenever you come to set your weekly tasks, you're always referring back to that monthly goal. So there should never really be any tasks that you're setting for the week which distract from that goal. I mean, of course, you've got to allow for a bit of flexibility in there, but I always make sure there's a very clear link back, and that at the end of the month, there's always a reward for me achieving those goals. So I think you've got to celebrate your wins, and you've got to dangle a bit of a carrot to yourself as well. So that works for me. But the one probably biggest behavior or habit that I've changed in amongst all of that is discipline. And before, I mean, it was there, but I knew I could easily get distracted, or there'd be something more exciting to do, and it wouldn't take much to throw us off track. And but I knew when I'd done a bit of a year-end review, that was one of the biggest things I needed to get better at. So I've set an affirmation which kind of like indirectly addresses it, which is everything I do to the best of my ability. That you can't really have good discipline if you're not doing things to the best of your ability, because that kind of, you know, it just doesn't, yeah. So basically I've set that affirmation since the beginning of the year, and I now get more satisfaction. It was just your point on gratification. I get more satisfaction out of knowing at the end of each day I've been more disciplined than I was the previous day. So that's kind of my, I mean, obviously you're aiming towards your end goal, but I think you need to enjoy and be proud of yourself on the way to that goal. And my kind of one measure of that is discipline, with that affirmation to go with it. Most days I'll recite that affirmation, and it just keeps it at the forefront of my mind. So yeah, it's definitely been a big shift in, and I put a lot of that down to the law of attraction planner. I mean, it's not anything, you know, it's not rocket science in there, but it's just, and it's that habit again. It enforces the habit of actually writing down your goal and writing down your daily and weekly tasks, which relate back to that exact goal. So that really works for me. And I'm starting to understand a lot more about the subconscious mind as I do the hypnotherapy training, and I now really do understand and believe that your daily habits repeated over time then become your beliefs. So that's all there is to it, really. If we repeat something for a long enough period, that's what we then become to believe. So it's really powerful when we get it right.
Well, that's all wonderful stuff. Do you happen to know where we get the Law of Attraction Planner for everybody? I don't know if there's a link we can post in.
Yeah, I think it's been posted before, but I'll dig it out and I'll
You've got it. I think everyone would probably like to have that again because I'm gonna.
It's not a calendar year as well, so don't worry if you haven't started it like in January. There's no dates on it, so you can start
12 months. Great. That's a very important thing. I'm going to post, you just remind me to post the Busy Fool link that I referred to. So that's going in, and we'll put the link for the planner. A planner is definitely something we've got to have, whether it's your 12-week year planner or your Law of Attraction planner. You've got to have some sort of schedule. And as John always says, if it's not in the diary, it doesn't get done. If it's not on the planner, it doesn't happen. There's no space for it. It hasn't been allocated a priority. And that's very true. And John will keep telling us that, thankfully, regularly. But I love that then you've got your reward system, which is important. We've said this to ourselves before. We've got to really enjoy what we're doing. Otherwise, there's no point. And the discipline, do you recite that affirmation regularly, Nicola, throughout the day?
Yeah, I mean, for those who know, I've just ran a course on affirmations. So that's probably number 2. Number 1 is meditation is a must on a morning. Number 2 is then affirmations. So I have a list of about 10, and I don't recite them all every morning. It's whatever I need, but there's kind of 1 or 2 which are done religiously every day.
I mean, that's that we're told is how the subconscious gets programmed partly, and John may comment on that, but these affirmations are a very important part of this linked up process. We have to start believing what we're telling ourselves, and it has to be inculcated at every level of our mind so that things start happening based on those affirmations and beliefs that we're telling ourselves we're embedding. It definitely works. That's
what I'm learning, is the subconscious mind doesn't learn in the same way as the conscious mind. So the conscious mind, I think I might have said this before, can just read something once and that's all it needs. It accepts it. The subconscious mind doesn't. That learns through repetition.
Yeah, it's true. And also the interesting thing, or one of the interesting things in the book last night, was emotions and how they're linked to things we can remember. And getting engaged in a moment and engaged in a process emotionally and investing ourselves in it can help the subconscious mind to reproduce the action. Yeah, for sure. It's all linked. So if you start believing those affirmations and really fervently believe them, not just say them, but really believe them, I think that's what it takes, isn't it, Nicola?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And well, through hypnotherapy, there's other ways you can speed up that process, but otherwise it's all about repetition and feeling the emotion that you feel. That's important as well. So kind of feeling and believing it. And one of the things I've just challenged the group I've been working with is a 30-day challenge to focus on one area of your life, come up with one affirmation and almost like hyper focus in on that for the next 30 days. So that really focuses the subconscious mind into one specific area of your life. So people might want to give that a try as well.
That's another great suggestion. We're getting loads of suggestions from Nicola here. So let's try and act on some of this. It works. It's worked for people. Okay, not everything works for everybody, but if you try everything, you're going to find your link. You're going to find the thing that really propels you. All these discussions we have every day, some of these things are nuggets for you personally. And if we give them a try, what have we got to lose? Let's just give them a try. That's it, really, isn't it, Nicola? Give it a try.
That's it. And there's not one solution fits all. It has to be what's right for you. And you don't know that, like you say, until you try it.
Absolutely. Well, Nicola, thank you for that. So I don't see any other hands up at the moment. I'm not sure if John's going to talk about the subconscious at all, but we might tempt him. Glenn is going to come in. Here is Glenn. Glenn?
Good afternoon, my friend.
Afternoon.
Nice to hear you. And yes, indeed. And you have today usurped one of John Lavenia's frequent actions here, Mr. Garner. You have quite successfully punched me in the face today. I'm going to keep my eyes on the road here, driving along to an appointment. Safety first, right? you said something. You were talking about programming our minds and developing the habits. You were talking about the swimmer and the runner and the writer, and them having taken the action of breaking down their goal, breaking down their desired outcome into quite literally daily result goals, daily activity goals. I'm a big one for heroics, as you've heard me say before. And yeah, I think one of the first times our friend Reverend Lavenia punched me in the face was with his one lovely saying, "Habits beat heroics every time." And so it's inspiring to me to take on a task today. As many of us know, I'm in the middle of a whole bunch of activities now, many of which are new in my slate of activities, priorities and activities. And so there can be the tendency to spread ourselves too thin, right? To take on a whole bunch of new stuff because it looks like it would be a really cool thing to do. I think I've just about gotten over that. The thing of it is, the several very worthwhile projects that I've taken on are very challengingly complex. So my remit today, see what I did there? My remit today is to do some time blocking, to lay out and sort of revisit my current list of projects and priorities and tasks and break them down into sets of monthly and weekly and daily, and in some cases hourly activities, and then sit down with the calendar and block out the time. And then starting, once that is laid out, tuck in and get to work. And as you've so brilliantly illustrated this morning, the key to our success is in our daily habits. Aristotle said it, right? We are what we repeatedly do. Success is therefore not an action, but a habit. So that's where my thinking is today. I'm very excited about the project, which, by the way, we have also great news. We said that we bought our new house, which is great. Our offer was accepted, under contract and everything. And yesterday, in fact, as of today, as the papers are signed and our current house is sold. So we are very excited about transition to new digs and new adventures and everything. And as we move in there, it is my intention to move in there with a refreshed and clarified system of priorities and projects and priorities and monthly, weekly, daily, hourly tasks and time blocked out, so that come the end of the year, I go and look and did I achieve my goals? Well, of course I achieved my goals. I did the daily thing. Back to you, Adrian.
No, that's fantastic. There were so many thoughts there. Thank you for sharing those. I mean, your book, I think you said you tried to write it for 20 years, if I remember it correctly. What did you do, Glenn? You 20 years.
Yeah, that's about right.
20 years going around in circles, and then you decided to do it. So what happened? How did you do that? How can you help everyone to crack their blocks?
Well, in the first place, at least in my experience, every successful project, the completion of every desired action begins with a decision. In my case, as you said, the book had been bouncing around in my head for a very long time, and I started to do this, started spending a lot of time talking about the book, talking about what I was gonna do. And then at one point, it finally got to the stage where my writing coach, the wonderful Suzanne Doyle Ingram, I was in one of her workshops, and she would normally assign different tasks to the people in the, and okay, this week your job, Joe, is to lay out your outline for the book, and Susie, your job is to reach out to the guy on Fiverr and get the cover design, and Glenn, your homework this week, write the damn book already. And so sometimes, in my case, I know most of the time in my case, one of the things very helpful for me is to get a coach, to get someone, to engage someone who will hold me, to whom I give permission to hold me accountable for the accomplishment of my goal. And I don't do free coaches, because I have found over the years that free advice is worth pretty much what you pay for it. So there's that. I got a coach. Then I laid out an exact schedule, a set of plans for each chapter and everything, and how I was going to write it, the actual mechanics of writing the book. And then I took deliberate action to remove distractions. As you all know, Paula and I went and rented a cabin in the woods in the middle of the Texas Hill Country. That may or may not be practical in someone's given situation, but we can certainly turn off the phone, turn off the TV, stop scrolling Facebook. We can remove distractions from our environment. And then once we got up there, I just got down to work and got into a habit pattern each day of exactly what I went through, a system that I had designed for how I was going to write each chapter. Watch an episode, take notes, bullet point the chapter, and then sit down with the computer and actually write the prose. So that worked for me. And then the big deal. You all know me, you know what I'm about to say. Once the whole project was done, celebrate. Congratulate yourself. You did accomplish something. But as you said, Adrian, the writer, if he finished a book, he just started in on the next one. I'm sorry. Did I mention I've started in on the next book? So really, for me, it was make a decision, set a schedule, remove distractions, work daily, and celebrate completion.
Well, there you have it, everybody. We've had chapter and verse literally there from Glenn and from Nicola. So we've got a whole raft of ideas as to how to overcome these blocks, how to avoid being unconscious, how to get into a cycle of productivity where we're being driven by habit consistently every day. And I know we're all going to get there if we can just do that. So if we can all stick together and egg each other on, keep reminding ourselves and holding ourselves accountable, which is part of the power of our mastermind group, we'll get there. Cyril, Cyril, come on up and talk to us. It's great to hear you.
Hi, guys. Hi. I just wanted to add a few things. I must admit, I have a great deal of problem with my mind wanting or being diverted by other things coming into my head that some part of me wants to do. My brain wanting to get creative in other ways, so I have to keep trying to. It's like at the moment, I started getting. I've been gradually had trouble last week, but I've been gradually starting to write the stuff I've been doing, and it has been progressing up until last week, which wasn't a very good week. But and then this week I'm getting, because I sometimes make clothes and things, because I used to make costumes for shows and stuff for my friend and myself. And this week I've got 2 jackets that I've got running around in my head as designs, which my brain wants me to do. So I'm being a bit diverted. But however, there's a couple of things I've come across that's quite useful. One, when I was at university, one of the best ways I found was just to start off with doing something really simple and small on what you want to do, because it breaks the ice, which I found really useful. Like for when I was doing reports at uni, it was about just starting off, I think I may have said this before, starting off doing, putting the key idea down, maybe researching the key idea in terms of thinking about it as a iceberg and what all those parts of it would then mean, looking up in the dictionary in terms of analyzing your question in terms of what that does, what fully does that say in terms of when you look at that the dictionary and thesaurus, and then plan, and then if you've got ideas for chapters or whatever, and then lay out the titles for those or whatever you have, and then plan out maybe for those things. I usually need what do they call it at the end? A reference page of references and things. And having started those things, so I know where they're going, it meant that when I came down to it fully, I was like, bang, I was straight in, because there was lots of bits and pieces I didn't even need to think about. I was just needing to think about what I needed to do. And then another one I've come across, which is quite useful, but having done a course that Jerry Roberts did, but that I found very interesting, was that he talks about one way for a writer to approach it. I mean, at the end, I think Glenn's point about celebrating is really important. I found actually that was one of the most important things I had to do at uni, because if I did not celebrate my last finish of a project, I couldn't do my next one, because my head was still didn't want to move, because I hadn't given it a sufficient present of some sort, so to speak. So I found that really useful in terms of celebrating. Go for a drink with a friend, go for a coffee, doesn't matter what it is, as long as it helps you to feel as though you've done something and achieved it and then celebrated it. And then, yeah, the Jerry Roberts thing was a quite interesting one in terms of think about it in 10-minute increments, and then start off with an idea or whatever it is about the chapter. Make a question about the chapter, as in, but the way you look at it is quite interesting in terms of I can't remember, I've got my notes in it somewhere, where basically you ask yourself a pertinent and kind of almost emotive question to yourself, so it evokes, because the brain likes questions to answer. So the more you utilize the way your brain functions is quite a handy way to get your brain working in terms of on an idea, because then your brain needs to answer the question, and as it's like listening to a story, your questions come up in your head, okay, what's going to happen next, blah blah, so to speak. And then another thing I've realized along the way, having done some other research on different courses that people are doing, that there's a very interesting thing about, in terms of the way the brain works, that looking at it from what they call the flow, as in you're wired to do things you want to do, and you literally get a chemical payoff. But the key to it is that when your brain, when you run out of energy when you've been doing some work on something, if you've really been enjoying it, you've really been getting into it, and then all of a sudden you kind of lost it, it's because you basically run out of juice. You've literally run out of the brain chemicals because you've used them up. So you need to look after your recovery period so that you can get back into it. And the better you get at your recovery, the easier it is to drop back into that and then to get that cycle working again, which is really interesting. In fact, I've been trying to piece together a kind of a presentation on it, because I think it would be quite interesting to do, and there's a lot of it though. I think it would be more like a number of sessions to do that, but really interesting on the way the brain functions in terms of what they call flow. Yeah, and I came across it when I was looking at a particular business entrepreneur who basically helps companies to move their businesses along to I think basically to 7- and 8-figure sums basically, and I realized that this was one part of what he sells is what they call the flow, and how you can adapt that idea and what I've been talking about into helping you to utilize those aspects of flow to help you basically get better at flow, and then also utilizing the things that help to make flow easier, and things like working in groups, which can help tremendously, because then you get a lot of spin-off ideas from each other, and even though you may not all be working on the same subject or project, the fact that working in a group can be really quite useful for the idea of kind of spurring each other on, and give it when somebody has lost ideas, and how somebody else might come up with an idea that actually then helps you with yours, and so on. So really interesting. And a good thing to get yourself used to nurturing yourself and the way your brain functions in how you are creative and or like to work. Yes, my 10 cents worth.
Cyril, you've dumped a whole lot of ideas on us there. You've got us thinking. I think that's a whole session in itself. So
yeah, to be honest, I think there's a series of sessions in
oh yeah, absolutely. So
yeah.
We've got start simple and start small to break the ice to get going. Celebrate at the end, put the whole thing to bed so that you're ready to start the next one. Ask pertinent questions to your brain, because the brain likes being challenged with questions. And then the flow, this whole aspect of the flow and the brain chemicals and staying in the flow. So thank you, Cyril. That was comprehensive explanation. Nicola as well, and Glenn, who's just had to sign off. We had 3 great illustrations there of ways of going about consciously attacking projects and achieving goals and getting routines and habits in place, because it's the habits that count, folks. It's all about the habits, which beats the unconscious and beats heroics as well, as we just heard from Glenn and from John before. So we're coming up to the top of the hour. I think we've had all the contributions today. Brilliant session. I'm so pleased everyone joined and made those contributions. Thank you for being there. Just to remind you all, Corporate Curios, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, which is absolutely great with Ivier, talking about corporate situations, management, governance, personal situations, judgments. It's very interesting. And then just to show John, I really do look at the calendar. He has now posted on the calendar the Clubhouse session training with a link, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on the calendar. You do have to have the app running, as he's just reminded us. So go and look at the calendar. 2 sessions coming up today. So thanks for listening. I think just to conclude,
Adrian, how do we get the app? How do we get the app? Because I've looked online, and the info I have is that it can be. John, do you know about that?
Yeah, it's iOS only currently. They haven't released it for Android yet.
All right. Okay.
Which I don't understand what's the holdup, but
okay.
iOS only.
So some of us will be on Clubhouse. Some of us will be on Clubhouse. Some of us will be not on Clubhouse. But that's great. That's great. So let's go forward after this. Let's start programming our minds and our subconscious so that we can get to definite and planned actions towards our goals. And that programming is going to become habit. If we practice it, it will become a habit. Just like the writer, 3,000 words before breakfast. Habits carry us forward every single day. So we can make this a really great week. Let's start the process, make it a really great week. Oh, Julia, you had something to add?
Yeah, I just want to know if we need an invitation to Clubhouse. I haven't received an invitation that I know of. And I think you have to be invited to be part of it, unless that's changed.
We're gonna do a practice run today, and but I'll attempt to invite you right now, because I think you're in my phone. I don't know, maybe you are, but yeah, we're getting this whole thing together, and then once they open it up for Android, it'll double in size again. But this thing is going nuts. This Clubhouse app, Evelyn knows about it as well. So, are you on iOS?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get it handled. And anybody else, let's invite each other, friends and all that. We'll get it done.
Thanks very much. Thank you, John. So I'll leave everybody until 5 p.m. with Ivier Eastern Time. Thanks for being here. Great session. Made me feel good, made me feel positive. So I hope it did for you too. Thank you, everybody. We will see you later. Bye for now. Goodbye. Bye.